Stand.
And for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd ask for approval of the agenda. Everything to approve the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the meeting minutes from the last meeting. They're sent out. A motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of the warrants. Chad, 50% settlement June, is that 50% of the June settlement or 50% of the year's settlement?
First half,
50%.
everything we collected through May 20. That's an
Okay,
estimate.
so it's first half of the whole year.
That's an estimate. What we do is we run whenever date that was, May, end of May, the first part of May, just did it again this week. So for the schools and the state of Minnesota, we have to give them an estimate. We pay 50% May, 50% of June, the estimate that we collect. Now we'll do the full set, what we call the full settlement, and that'll be the end of June, where we do everybody. The cities, townships, we clean up the schools, we county, the watershed, everybody.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll second.
And motion and second, is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Yep. Guess what, we got a little time. Oh, boy, you know what that means? Really? Like, yeah, you give us a little, update on kind of your department and kind of how it's going, you wanna do that?
Yeah, I can do that.
That impromptu request, that sure. Thank you.
Can we sit right next to the owl here? So I guess I'm here today to just kind of give you a heads up on the County Board of Appeal. That is gonna be coming up here on June 17th at 4:30. We had an extremely light year for local boards this year. We had 2 appeals. So, countywide, we did have a 24% increase in our tillable land. The one thing about that is we had a lot of farmers questioning, but I think a lot of farmers are very well versed in kind of what's happening in the egg market right now, and they understand what their farm or what their neighbors are selling farmland for. So they're probably one of the best informed group out there. So we didn't have a ton of questions. Most of the questions we had this year were from people who are out of the area. They live in other states. They just don't they're not fully involved in agricultural, which they might have just inherited the land, something along those lines. So that's kind of where those people had questions about the kind of increase that we had this year. Right now, my staff is getting geared up to go out and start viewing properties. So they've been out for about the last month doing their quintile work. So just, again, this is something that happens every year. So they're out and about, knocking on doors and so.
We seen her in Ashby yesterday.
Yep. So Vicky was out in Ashby yesterday. So. We are already for next year. The market hasn't slowed down one bit. Our residential, we're probably still looking, anywhere from a 5 to 10% increase if it were to end today. Agricultural, we're still looking at about another 12% increase. So the market everything is still going up. So we're not seeing any slowdown anywhere.
No stagflation out there at all?
There's no stagflation, no, so.
Wow.
The number of probably new buildings going up, that's probably slowed down a little bit. And I probably attribute that back to higher interest rates. Material costs have started to come down a little bit, but there's a lot of stuff was built between 2020 and 2024. So I'm not sure people are kind of caught up on what they're gonna do, but we still need more houses. We need people to build. That'll help kind of level things out a little bit. And that's part of the reason that our market is still increasing at the level that it is because we just don't have the inventory for people to buy. So. Any other questions for me? I just kind of wanted to come and let you guys know or remind you that the county board was coming up. Just because we go over this back in January, but I just figured you should be just kind of a little more up to date reminder.
So I got a question for you. Technology in your office, are we, if we're looking at good, better and best, are we comparatively with other small counties, do we have what we need or do you need more from us or how are we sitting from a technological standpoint?
From a technological standpoint, I think we're right where we need to be. We have periodic updates to our GIS, which is the updated imagery, and that's being loaded onto the county servers basically as we speak right now. So that all just came into my office last week, and so I've been working with IT to get that all uploaded. So with a 3-year cycle on new imagery, that's pretty much the state standard of what people are doing. So we're right in line there. With our CAMA system, it's one of those things that it suffices for what we need. Are there better systems out there? It's Chevy versus Ford of whether, what the system we have works. Our tax system is good. as long as we can continue to have those people do what they need to do, I think we're right where we need to be. I think if they lose too much more staff down there, I think we're gonna have, you know, there'll be some growing pains. You know, computer wise, I think we're right where we need to be. We have in the past played around with taking some, like iPads and surfaces out in the field, but we found that there's just nothing really on the market that is built for how we would use them. Because when our appraisers are out viewing properties, there can be long gaps between before they can plug that unit back in to get battery. So the battery life out in the field, they might say that, oh, they work for 8 hours. But in reality, how we use them, they only last about 4. So we haven't found that there's a good, like, Surface, iPad, anything that works long enough, because we can't bring them into a cold AC car. So they get really hot. They get, you know, the screens tend to delaminate, those types of things. So we've just gone back to pen and paper, just because it's reliable. So we've been down the path. Technology hasn't just caught up yet. So even tough books, they're too heavy. If you're lugging around another 4 or 5 pounds, it weighs a lot on the appraisers, so.
Mr. Chair, I got a question. Is there any uptick in surveys?
If we're talking splits, I would probably say it's about normal.
Okay.
We are seeing that there's a lot more people getting surveys just for their own needs.
Right.
We have had quite a few documents in the last 2 to 3 months that are they're using our county policy and basically ways to circumvent getting a survey, which I guess that's one of the things that my office, recorders, and Justin's office are gonna need to kind of review to see if we want to continue going that route, or if we need to change or update our policy on whether a survey would be required when we are.
Certifying a sale.
Yep.
Whether it be tax forfeiture or anything. really.
Whether it be anything, yep. But there does come a cost to doing a survey. I mean, it can cost anywhere from a simple one would be about $2,500 to a complex could be $7,000 to $10,000. So it all depends on what the issues are.
Anything else for Carl? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
John, you got
Yeah,
7 minutes.
it'll be really
You
short.
sent us another update, which I like. Thank you. You want to touch on that, or maybe you have something else?
Well, I do briefly, and I know it's short notice, but at the last meeting I had brought to the board. We were talking about rain gutters for the new LEC. And we were meeting with the gutter guy after the meeting, and we had a rough estimate of like $8,000 is what I talked about at the time. So after meeting with the owner from Minnesota Gutter, he did provide us an estimate for the entire building, and it's $2,000 less than what the rough estimate was just verbally. So he had submitted to me last week an estimate for the entire building equaling $5,999.65. So, you know, we've all seen with the amount of rain that we've got, and we need someplace for that water to go. So I guess, you know, my ask to the board is if this is something that you'd be willing to approve for the new LEC. So I can get this sent in to them and lock them in at this price, and then we just have a scheduling, you know, later on down the line for it.
So the other proposal that, obviously from the roof line,
Mhm.
what about at the ground? Does it include tending to the water once it gets to the base?
Well, I know that was a question last time, is where, you know, where are we gonna go with that? And I think You know, at this point, it does not. I mean, we could talk about downspouts and out onto the ground, but now if we need to do something like French drains or something like that for the downspouts with rock in maybe a span that sits 4 or 5 feet out from the building where it dissipates out. I think that's something to look at when we get to that point. As far as any landscaping goes, I don't anticipate seeing any of that happening this year. I think right now we'll try to get what we can get established when it comes to grass and getting that soil together and everything like that, and getting things tied down a little bit, but maybe next spring, look at how we're gonna push that water to.
When he gave us the quote, I mean, obviously he was on site.
Correct.
Did you together look at where the drops would be and
Yep.
kind of say, okay, this makes sense, and have a somewhat of a napkin pencil drawing where,
Right,
well, so we're taken into a place where we can handle it?
yes,
You feel-
definitely, yep,
Okay.
yep, definitely, yeah, there's. You know, there's quite a slope to that whole site anyways, and so the design. Yeah, I'd have to physically show it to you for you to understand where that water would. Be going at this point, coming from the building, but yeah, it's been taken into account.
Does that bid include gutter guards?
So we spoke of gutter guards, and that was the one place that I was concerned about, is maybe on the north side of the building with the trees. But the building sits high enough, especially the upper level, that trees aren't gonna be an issue. We had discussed the rain gutter, which would be on the west side of the garage area. That could potentially be an issue. Instead of throwing gutter guards in there at this point, we thought we would see how that plays out and how those are affected or aren't affected by any leaves or trees. And he had said too that later on, if it's something that we need to add, you know, 6 months down the road or a year down the road, is something we certainly would consider. So, and that'd be a relatively small area.
So do we need a motion, or is this part of the whole plan, and there's money in the kitty? Or how do
Well,
you,
we had just discussed it come out of bond proceeds, correct? Yeah, so
so do you need a motion in the,
I think it'd be best.
so we got a motion to approve 59.92 something?
59.99.65.
59.99.65,
Right.
so
Yeah.
35 cents from 6,000. Sarah,
Yeah.
motion,
$6,000.
As a recommendation of the building committee, I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I think we should talk to soil and water and see. I don't think we should. Grade it all, establish seed, and then just tear it up in the spring, and we can do it all before we get it. At least get a plan so we know what.
Yeah, I can certainly get with Greg and, you know, since he's across the hall now, it'd be easier to get a hold of him and we can sit down and look at a plan. See how that all plays out. I don't think that's an issue. Yeah,
Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
I got 2 minutes.
2 minutes, stop, okay, that's on.
Yeah, so, bricklayers will be done, Schobergs will be done today, with the exception of one block wall in the basement hallway area and a doorway. But they are wrapping up on all the, exterior brick today. Window guys are here, so they're starting to set door frames, window frames and glass. Carpenters are back, they're starting with the soffit and the decorative trim on the back side. That's where they started the work, that'll continue around the whole entire building. Plumbing and heating, they still continue to finish up insulating, for plumbing and heating is finishing up. Electrical is moving right along with all the rough end done. They're pulling a lot of wire now. 11 o'clock today, TKE or Tyson Crump, the elevator guys, they're showing up with the equipment, starting to install that. Last Friday, or a week ago Friday, all of the gypcrete, the additional flooring on the wood part of the flooring was all poured in the upper level, so that's complete. And all 4 stoops were poured yesterday, and so those are now complete for the walk-in doors. On the west, east, and then the main entrance of the building, so that's been completed now too.
This gyp,
Mhm.
does that go over the existing concrete?
No, so if you're, and Ken, you were in there, so if you remember, you know, when we walked into that building, there was that wooden floor. And then the further west you went, also we stepped up like an inch and a half or an inch roughly onto the cement.
Yeah.
Okay, so that gypcrete is a cement poured on top of that wooden floor to bring all of it up to the same level. Yeah, and it's,
And whatever tile or carpet, whatever.
Yep.
goes over that,
yep, it
just-
goes right over the top of that, yeah, yeah,
That's
south level.
really, a type of concrete that's really thin and finishes nice and.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, so that's the short version of the latest.
You're now out of time, so you get your final say.
Yeah,
Any questions for John? Otherwise, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
We got human resources, actually.
Good morning. All right, so I'm back with the county coordinator position. I had sent out the job description to all of you. I think you all get that last week. So it includes all of the job duties that we discussed at a board meeting a few meetings ago. It came back graded at a 18, which was the same grade it was rated in 2022. It just gained 10 points, but it still stayed in that grade 18. So with that, now I bring it to the board to ask if, after reviewing and seeing all the job duties in here, if this is something you'd like to move forward with as far as advertising and hiring a county coordinator. Is there any questions on the job description that was sent out to everybody?
Actually, who's the main contact for the website changes and additions? Jeff or you?
Both, yeah, the department heads were trained, or not department heads, or they designated somebody in their department that were able to make changes. So every department should have somebody that can make changes, but when it comes to like the main page, Jeff and I can make changes that way. So yeah, I would guess if there's somebody that wants something on the main page, we'd be the contact.
You all work together.
And then so departments know how to change their own pages. Yep. But when it comes to like, if we have to do a revamp of our webpage or, you know, coordinating of that, Jeff and I, we did that. So that would be under this position now. If we were to go a different route for a webpage or do our revamp of it.
This job description is 40 hours a week in person.
Mhm.
Questions, comments? Read it and I thought I had a question. Now I can't find my question. Is there a section in here that related to the department head meetings?
I think we put it as various board committees, task force and community, yeah. Yeah, it's right here. Will represent the department heads and lead monthly department head meetings.
What section was that?
5 up from the bottom of the first page, dots. 5th one up.
I know you've overlapped on a lot of these meetings and projects and, you know, staying abreast of the development of local, regional, state meetings and things like that, you know. This person, in my opinion, should get eyeball deep into AMC and understand what Association of Minnesota Counties does with this, these counties clear across the state. So that must overlap and take care of some of that, but that person should show up to those events, in my opinion. We see a lot of auditors and administrators, you know, coordinators and things like that at these things.
That was my question. Will represent the department heads and lead the monthly department head meetings, so I first read that. I was like, does that mean the department heads won't have a say at the table when the exec says represent them?
No, I don't think so. I think it's do the meetings, the agenda, the notifications. That part of it.
And what comes out of the meeting.
And then the notes, the minutes and all of that, sending that out to the department heads, communication with them.
So when it says will represent the department heads and lead the monthly department head meeting.
I think when that, if like, let's say non-union, you know, our department heads are non-union. If, you know, like I came to the board for the employer contribution on behalf of the department heads, they wanted to see an increase just like the rest. So if there's a change, the coordinator would represent the department heads as far as coming to the board asking for that approval. Maybe that's how I see it.
That was my question. That makes sense, but it's not intended to not have the department heads at their meeting. No. So we're at this point. We would then ask for a motion and a second and a discussion at that point, then what?
Well, we need approval, to approve the job description and then approval to advertise for the position. And then if it is approved, if you guys do approve the position, then we would post.
And as the personnel committee, I mean, you weighed in on this, obviously, and so at this point, then, I would ask for a motion to approve the county coordinator job description is presented.
So,
There's a second?
I'll second it.
Oh, discussion. Comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. So
Uh,
what, before you go to your next.
what was
item?
that motion though?
That just approved the job description. We
Okay.
still have to
We still have to approve.
approve Phil.
Yep.
Right, okay, should we do that right now also? So I'd ask for a motion then to proceed to fill the position, advertise and hire.
Mhm.
Is there a motion for that?
So,
A motion and a second, discussion,
yeah, what are we looking at? Timeline,
yes, I was gonna ask that.
does that becomes an issue too? Right now, I don't know if we have anywhere to put someone.
Mhm. Right.
Where are we gonna put them, Dwight?
Yeah, good idea. Not over in public health,
Oh.
put it that way.
Got some thoughts, Troy?
I just talked to Rob and I said there was no timeline for him to move. up there, you know, that, cause there's that office by the break room. Do we table this motion until the next meeting and talk to Rob and see what his timeline to move would be? And then we know that, I mean, for now, they move in here and then,
So there was an office that Rob planned on moving in sooner than.
well, at our last meeting, we approved the start.
Yeah.
Of moving the 3 offices here up to the courthouse.
Yeah.
And the one that the strategic planning committee had designated for Rob is currently open. So that is just a matter of when it works for Rob.
So I got a question, would it make more sense that the 3 that are here move all at once, once law enforcement is moved out? And then that we can commence to do the hiring process and have this person then move into. Cause I don't know if that makes a difference to Rob, whether it was when that's done or sooner. Would it make more sense to have the new person go right into that, or help me out with that thought?
Well, the recommendation from the strategic planning committee put Rob into that office, so I don't think you'd wanna put a coordinator into that office only to move them out when you moved all 3 of these. Because that left the decision, what came out of the strategic planning committee was the decision for the coordinator of where they would go was between what is currently dispatch and sheriff chief deputy, that wall between those 2 offices was put up, right, Joy? So that can come back down to be 1, but we didn't wanna keep doing that until we knew for sure what we were. So I will make a motion to table the previous motion until our next meeting. I think we need to have more meetings to discuss where we would house before we build.
Okay, so we have a motion to table the process to commence. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
So. And I'm part of the strategic planning committee, so you gotta help me out with that. I should understand fully what you're saying. Is there an office available today that somebody could move into at the courthouse? Yes or no?
There's the office by the break room.
Okay. And if Rob moved into that, then wouldn't there be an office here? So why would we delay the process if there is truly an office available? I'm just.
Well, like I said, right before this meeting, I talked to Rob, and he said there was really no timeline that I knew of for him to move. So I think it would be nice to talk to Rob again and see what is that timeline you're thinking? Is it in July, August, so then we fill and
Personally, I think this is too important a position to delay the commencing the process if we have truly an office available. But I can vote no too, so, but any more discussion? We got a motion and a second. Is there more discussion to Troy's concept to table to next meeting?
yes,
So we're not, I guess,
so the 18th.
which isn't a major time element. Would you like to weigh in on this? Actually, you worked very hard on this. Do you have feelings expressing?
I don't know if I have feelings on the location, cause I don't know. Yeah, there is an office at the courthouse that is open right now. The plan was in strategic planning that Rob would go there. I don't know. I don't have an opinion on the location. I guess it just all depends on how it works out on the moving process. Cause the strategic planning committee talked about that the coordinator role would go into the sheriff and chief deputy space. Clearly that's not available yet, but just depends on how much flip flopping and moving around you wanna do.
Exactly.
And we're talking about September. Sometime in September, for you guys exiting the building.
That's what it is.
You could move the person into the space at the courthouse now, and then they just have to move across the hall, I guess, but.
So that would be another question for, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I got it. So if we're delaying it for 2 weeks to talk to Rob about whether he's ready to move up there, is that the discussion? Because let's say he says, not really, I would like to move when the rest will. Then we're gonna commence to do the process and put them up there anyway, aren't we? Cause we can't delay this whole deal till October. So,
No, my concern is, we say. We're gonna hire right away, Rob said he's not ready to move until the others move. Dispatch is gonna be probably the last entity to move. So that not potentially is September first, let's just use September first, no. Saying that today, that might be September, we're 2 weeks behind now, and if that's the office we're gonna go with. Now we're gonna move Rob and then switch and then move again.
Right. That'll make sense.
I thought
Why
the
not?
sheriff and the chief deputy
Right.
was gonna be the coordinator office.
What we talked about in the strategic planning is that office would potentially wait until the very end, because we don't wanna take that wall out only to go back a year later and say, hey, let's put that wall back in.
Sure.
And have two offices rather than one bigger one.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right, so I mean, that's my concern, if we say we're gonna hire right away, and then we're gonna just put the coordinator in the courthouse. And then when we get to September to move and dispatch isn't ready, then do we move them down here after we've already got them there, and only to move them again?
if you have an office available, you commence to start the process, and if you make it work. Well. Is there any other discussion? Because we do have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. I believe it carried. So we will delay the motion to commence.
It should be on the agenda for the next.
Yeah, we'll put it on the agenda, and
I mean, we already have the motion. On the agenda, it's just-
Yeah. so one of the things that following up is. Do we need a strategic planning meeting to address this, or is it something that? Since we're on that.
Is it
committee,
strategic planning or is it, Bill, is it a building committee? I don't.
Should be a building committee meeting and then we recommendations to the strategic plan.
Someone talking to Rob is, I guess, the point.
Yeah, I mean,
So is it the building?
we got people on board.
we can do this.
Okay, so the building committee then. In the next,
Well, we'll have a building meeting at some point, you know, and then we can meet right after that, so we don't double up on meetings. After we're done with your meeting, like on Monday.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen because we're not having one this coming Monday, so our next meeting for. I'll walk here.
Well, if it's not next Monday, it would be 2 weeks probably after that.
Right. Well,
No, we'll just have one.
Okay.
Cause I know Rob had asked for a few things too that we gotta.
address.
Yeah, our next meeting wouldn't technically be until the 24th.
Yeah, we'll meet before then, 'cause I know he'd asked for a printer scanner. How that worked, and I said that I believe would be a department head IT request.
so just a thought for the building committee, I think. That we've come a long way on, thank Ashley and the personnel committee for the work they've done on this. I would hope that as they move forward with the building committee, that we don't delay it any longer than the next meeting. Because this is really important. Let's figure the office space out. And so I'll leave you with that challenge, and with that, we can move on.
The next thing I have is, so currently we are, looking to fill that highway accountant position, again. We hired someone, a few weeks ago, it didn't work out, and so it is open again. And so in the meantime, and since, we have had this opening, Aaron Byer has filled the role, and he has done the duties of a highway accountant. In our personnel committee meeting, we figured, he's doing about 15% of the job, and so, we felt as a personnel committee, he should be, compensated for that, because he's doing those duties as payroll, bills, the things that need to be done on a daily basis, on a bi-weekly basis, and so, we came up with 15%, compensating him above his current salary. So 15% would bring him from currently $32.16 to $36.98 while he's doing those highway accountant duties. And so I'd be looking at,
This is following the precedent that's already been set.
yep,
And you, that's 15%.
15.
Yeah.
Yep.
I charted, right?
Yep.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So
Second,
do we have an effective date? When does this start? Does it start today or we start doing it?
That'd be up to
That should
the
be in your
board.
motion too. Well,
Yep.
how long have you been doing it?
So, well, Aaron, Michelle was our last highway accountant. She left in April. And then, so obviously April, but then I don't know, do you have more on that?
Yeah, that's why I asked, that figured this would be brought up, so
Yeah.
Shane left 6/1 of 23, Michelle started. Or, yeah.
Yep.
Michelle started
August of 23.
August of 23, and then Michelle left.
Yep.
April of this year. So
Yep.
I did it for 9 weeks, and then now I've been doing it for 8 weeks.
And we have had other department heads do extra duties when we're looking for staff and things like that, but,
Mhm.
you know. In my opinion, it should be effective immediately instead of backdated.
I'll amend my motion. To reflect to, pay him for the weeks that he's done this extra work.
So I heard two numbers, 8 and a 9, so it would be,
Well, it was two different.
yeah, going back to the original motion. Is that, you got that somewhat clear there, Chad?
All I heard was to reflect back for the weeks that he's done it.
So you said, help me out on them weeks, Aaron,
Runs from 6/1 23 to 8/7 23. 4/3 24 to now until the position is filled.
and that's at that 15%.
Mhm.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
No
Well, you had a
discussion?
motion in a second.
Well, right, so but he amended the motion. Do you wanna withdraw it?
I was the second.
Yeah.
You never called on that, so I will second that Doyle's motion.
Am I on track, Chad, or?
I don't know, are you? I just, you had a motion in a second. Doyle amended his motion.
Yeah, okay,
Bill amended the amendment.
so we're okay, yes, that we,
Correct.
is there discussion on the amended motion in second?
The only question I would have for Chad is, how is this gonna look when it's 2023? Cause we're closed for 2023, obviously, is this a problem? Like wages are different, you know. Budget, everything's closed, I don't know how that works, that's my question.
Well, 23 doesn't. You don't book these wages back to 23.
Right.
It's 15% of his wage at the time, I'm assuming.
Yep,
So you have to go whatever the wage was from June 1st of 23 through 8/7 of 23 and tack on 15% of that.
okay,
So the rate was-
yeah. Okay, and we know that, obviously, so,
Any other discussion? On favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? I'd like to thank you, Aaron, for stepping up and doing these duties.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And once again, thank you for the work on the coordinator position work, Ashley.
mhm. That is all I have.
That's all you get. 9:45. You're a minute late. Aaron, you're on.
Yeah, that's right. So this should be pretty simple. So I had a landowner call me on, 2, 3 weeks ago, asking to get the portion of ditch 1 cleaned east of town here. And he was asking if he could call some contractors. I said, no, I'll take care of it. So I got 3 quotes back, and Wagner Construction was the lowest. He was at $7,050. And I got a quote from Olson Tile and Excavating and Red Rock Excavating. They were over 12,000. So I would look for approval to award the ditch cleaning to Wagner Construction to clean out about 4,700 feet of ditch just east of town here.
What was the bid, Aaron?
7,050.
And by looking at this, is this ditch north of T-Birds here, this T-Bird on 79?
The little piece there.
Yeah, right here.
Yep.
And then it's up here.
So this one and this one.
Okay,
So this is about 1,500.
okay, okay.
When you looked at it, I mean, it makes sense.
Yep.
Is there money in the ditch fund for it?
There's $12,000 in there right now, so, and we're currently in the process of that redetermination stuff, so. That's a different money process thing that we'll have to deal with too, so,
Is this your recommendation?
yes.
Is there a motion to accept that recommendation and the quote?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair. I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
Is there a discussion?
I got one question here. This ditch here though, it'll always be already ready.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just east of the,
Yep.
yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You got 2 minutes. Would you like to enlighten us where the walleyes are biting?
If I told you, I'd have to kill you. No,
Anything else in your department that we can do for you, or are you, keeping your chin above?
yeah, I just talked to contractor Sir Line Bluff before the meeting here, and they're planning on doing the striping next week. So I'm gonna talk to John Plaster and see if he's got time to, not babysit him, but just check in on him.
Yeah.
So,
Have you heard any more on 10 there when the boys are coming back?
no.
How about 82 up there?
We have a pre-con tomorrow,
Okay.
so we'll have a better idea tomorrow.
Did they get the pipes in on 10?
Yep, and they're,
So,
went good. We maybe could have tossed another section on the west side, but it's flowing, so they're working.
The overflowing work.
Yep, both of them, yep.
Those pipes are how much higher than the Gulf?
Oh, a lot. That box culvert's really deep in there, so like probably 5 feet.
the bottom of the new pipes are 5 feet above the top of the box?
No,
No, not the top.
the flow line of the box. The box is super, super tall. I think it's a 5x6 if I remember right, and those are just round pipes, so they sit way higher, like they're at the top of the box, basically.
Oh, yeah, okay, so that's, yeah,
Yeah.
It's
5
good they
feet.
got them in there.
Yeah, I didn't think that they'd be working right away, but they're moving water,
And they're south of the bottom.
correct?
Well.
Yep.
Fairly close, or how close together?
Yeah, 15, 20 feet maybe.
Okay, so.
No, they got it done in a day or two, so it went good. There was good material under them, so.
Aaron, are you still, like, you're some men short, right? On the, is it one guy or,
One and then our accountant, yeah.
no, not the accountant, but you got, yeah,
It's just me,
yeah, but I mean the
engineering.
highway side of it. Are they missing an operator or
Mhm.
looking for one or?
Yeah, one right now. Yep, and then the technician for me and Matt, so
Like, not a lot of, no application.
not yet.
But you won't tell us where the walleyes are biting and you're 1 minute late, or you have anything else?
I don't think so.
Otherwise, thank you.
Yep, thank you guys.
Next, Reed and Greg. Or whoever's gonna carry the torch.
All right, good morning.
Or in.
Maybe before I start with the Furman thing, I wanna share with you that I've been having conversations with Ann in regards to the furniture that, is still over in the corner where we used to be. So, kind of came to the conclusion that the way that the floor plan up in the new office worked pretty well. So I decided that it would probably be appropriate, rather than all the man hours and all the stuff that it would have took to pack that stuff up and move it all over, I just transitioned into what was already there. So, with that then being said, that furniture is still sitting there. And I had a conversation with Ann about, they're ramping up and gonna have another employee in there. And I asked her if she'd be interested in buying it, and she said she was. So she went ahead and then got a quote and an estimate on what her office needs would be in that room. There's a couple extra pieces of furniture in there that she probably didn't need because, well, I just had more things going on. So I guess the point I'm getting at is she wasn't willing, she basically said she'd pay $6,500 for the stuff that's in there. And we had probably more like 85 or 9,000 into everything, but it is a couple years old, right? And blah, blah, blah. So she is going to, whoever you guys sit on that, okay, that joint powers board. She's gonna present that on the 10th.
She
That-
presented it yesterday to me.
Oh, okay.
We had a finance committee meeting.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so you're on that too. Okay, so with that then, so you're aware of that. I wasn't sure if you had been brought up to speed on that. She said on the 3rd, they were gonna have a finance committee, but I didn't know if you're on that one, Dwight. Okay. So fast forward, I guess, I don't know if she's got confirmation yet, but I wanted to share with you guys that I'd recommend that that'd be a good idea, right? Otherwise, we could take it out of there and put it in storage until, I don't know, maybe if the sheriff's department would be interested in it or, right? I mean, I guess, like I said, my recommendation would be is to sell that equipment to public health, that office furniture. And then we're utilizing that space pretty effectively. It just made sense. It worked, so.
So you said a couple pieces. Is she getting them extra pieces for the 6,500 or what's happening?
Yeah, I would just, right,
All there.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't, I mean, the color is different and I suppose I could bring it up there, but the way it's set up there right now, it's working and right, you'd have some lighter oak and then the material or the texture and the color of that stuff is like this, right? So it would just be kind of a mismatch and right? So I wouldn't say we're giving it away, but we're just discount, right? It's a discount package.
So do we need a motion then to?
Well, I suppose it would be contingent upon if they would, and Dwight maybe,
She's gonna present that on Monday.
right, yeah, so next,
Like I told her, 6,500, I think the county, I can't speak for the board. I said, I think the county would be probably willing to do that.
right, and that would be my
You
recommendation.
put it in storage and you sell it 10 years from now for $1,000. So-
Yeah, yeah,
Where is that the same stuff that you had across the street? You just moved it over here? Is that new?
no, that's the stuff I bought like 3 years ago.
That's
Yeah,
ready to go.
so it's not, it's the ergonomic
So we
stuff,
throw it out, the-
right?
We've got an office, where do we have storage?
yeah, we don't have one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so there, that's another good point, right?
And I believe, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but all the furniture for law enforcement's been ordered, if not in
Yes.
storage.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
So I think, I think that I think the board over there will go over that. They'll offer the 6,500.
Yeah, yeah, and I,
I'll
right,
make
and I
a
mean,
motion to it, if they're willing to pay it, we'll accept the 6,500 for the furniture and the.
There's a second?
I'll second that for the simple fact that you move the stuff around, pretty soon something happens to it.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's another
Better
good
than
point.
sit still and you just utilize it wherever it's at. that's-
Yeah. Yes,
They can put their people right in there right now.
yeah, right,
So-
yeah.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So,
Yeah. Thank you. All right, and I will move on to the agenda item that I did have on there was, Joey and Chantel Furman came before the planning commission a couple of weeks ago to request an after the fact permit for some lakeshore dirt moving that they had done earlier in the spring. And I think, Chad, you mentioned that you forwarded that package, so maybe what we can do is take the opportunity to look at there's a photo of what was done out there, right? And that project then, based on what was done out there, would have required a conditional use permit. Because we're in the shore impact zone, right next to the shoreline, and typically, if someone wanted to move that volume of dirt, we would have required more than just an over-the-counter permit that I can give. So it would have required a conditional use permit. So there was two routes at the time that this was discovered, was either go through the after the fact process or turn it over to Justin for going through the legal process. And in conversations with Mr. Furman, he said he would be willing to cooperate. So we went down the road of going for an after the fact permit to restore this back to as close as what was there prior to that excavation. So we put together a package, what we explained to Mr. Furman, who was trying to do riprap, and his rationale at the time was his smaller equipment wouldn't have been able to do what typically is done. And here's another photo that you guys have in your packet that shows what a riprap project typically looks like. So we went through the process of explaining to him what some of the conditions and the requirements would be if he would have come in and tried to do this correctly. So in that packet again, there is a set of conditions that the planning commission recommended that Mr. Furman meet in order to be in compliance with the conditional use permit. And I don't know how far into the weeds you guys want to go through, but there is a set of 17 conditions that were attached to this project. And primarily it's number 3 that I want to review with you guys. And those are recommendations that were born from a typical project, and also Brent from the Soil and Water Conservation District, who is the one who typically is tasked with recommending how to do this project so that it's done properly and it'll function and last long term. And then at the same time, then try to prevent any soil erosion from getting in the water. So item 3 talks about moving forward with this project, that either a silt curtain gets placed out in the water, or else a silt fence be placed right at the base of the water's edge. So all these conditions were reviewed that night of the hearing. And Mr. Furman did agree to abide by those conditions. So one of the things that maybe stands out a little bit is during the project, as it moves forward, then Mr. Furman's gonna place some smaller logs because he does have a lumber business, right? He cuts trees for a living. So he's gonna be placing logs at the top of the toe of that project or at the base, and then putting wood chips behind there so that as he's doing the work over the next 30 to 60 days, he'll just sequentially move those logs out of the way as he does the project. Right? Cause he's entertained to do that himself. So, but the first step then would be is to take the material where he made that steep bank and peel it back and put it back to its original contour. And we do have a profile in the packet that shows what the project looked like prior to his activity. So if we were to look at this sheet here, this was derived using some GPS equipment that we've have in the office, and then also using LiDAR, right? So the first step then would be is to restore this side hill back to what it looked like before he did the dirt work. So he's agreed to do that. And then one of the other steps in this project then would be, since this lake does bounce quite a bit, Mr. Furman will be placing the rock riprap a minimum of 2 feet above the current elevation of the lake, and it's probably come up a little bit now. I don't know, has Elk Lake come up a little bit? I know you live on the lake just adjoining it, so you would be able to, right, these lakes down in that country bounce a little bit. So if they're gonna riprap, we wanna make sure that the rock is as high as potentially the lake can get to avoid that future erosion problem, right? And I did attach in your packet at the back there, you'll notice there's kind of a guidelines and a worksheet that DNR has in place. So Mr. Furman would then obviously follow those guidelines as well. And all of these things are spelled out in item 3. And one of the other pieces then to that puzzle is, as this project transpires in pieces, he will then seed and mulch the project so that moving forward, grass grows where there is no rock, and the erosion control blanket and seeding then would prevent that from happening in the future. So the recommendation going through this process from our planning commission, who is the advisory board on these kind of projects to you guys, is to recommend approving this particular project as long as all of these conditions are followed and met. So that maybe is a lot to digest. So I'll maybe take a breath and ask you guys if you got questions about this particular project.
That after the fact price tag that moved up from, wasn't it like 700?
It was 300 and we moved it to 500.
Okay.
So Mr. Furman has already paid the application fee of $400 and the after the fact fine or permit fee of $500. And the other piece to this then, if you notice condition 8, is we calculate that this is about a 200 linear foot wide project and about 50 feet back. So then that comes to approximately $1,100 in a performance deposit that he'll submit, right? So that if he doesn't follow the guidelines primarily of item 3, then we would have leverage to either cash that check and have it done right, or we still have the ability then, if he doesn't comply, cash that check and then turn the project over to Justin. So those.
There's one more, if you look at page 8, there's a shed there and.
Good, yes, correct,
What
yeah.
was cut out and what he's in, I forget what he called that, not a gazebo, but if he commences with that, then you'd have to move the shed.
Right, yeah, and that would be and that's part of, that isn't necessarily a condition, that's an over-the-counter permit that I will give because what Joey's proposing to do, if you look in, the photo that I submitted, you'll notice there is a small cutout right in that area. That's where he's proposing to put a gazebo so that, right, and that's an allowed activity. It was the dirt work that wasn't allowed. So we gave him the ability to leave that cutout to a maximum of 250 square feet, right? And then part of that little cutout will be put back into black dirt. So that's a good point, Ken, but there will be a gazebo that he's proposing to put there. And down by the lake, you're allowed 150 square foot building. So he's going to place a gazebo there, and there is a shed that obviously sits in that red location that will be moved back 200 feet. So you're allowed one structure down by the water, and that's now gonna be a gazebo. Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up, Ken. That's,
So this
That was part
permit is
of-
outside of the shoreline ordinance boundary though.
well, the permit for a gazebo would be a permit over the counter that I would give him. But then you're only allowed one of those kind of buildings, and currently he already has a storage building down there. So then that storage building is coming out and then will be placed back by his house. Does that make sense? So he'll still be allowed one building down by the water that he currently was storing his stuff, but we don't allow two buildings down by the lake. So that'll be coming out because he wants a gazebo.
What's Otter Tail do?
Same thing, pretty much. Yeah, that's how, that's, yeah.
That's where that comes from.
Not necessarily, but yeah, it's kind of it's a area-wide, statewide standard. Yeah. So where we're at now is, Mr. Furman's agreed to all these conditions. The next step then is for you guys to, sign the permit application with those conditions attached. And there will be an agreement that is also signed by you guys and Mr. Furman, that he and you guys recognize and agree that that's what's gonna happen. And if it doesn't, then again, we have the potential to cash that deposit of $1,100. And if he doesn't cooperate, then we turn it over to Justin. So,
A long time to do it.
in the conditions, it's 60 days. Yeah, so
August 10th or 60 days.
what's that?
Oh, it says August 10th, it's gotta be done by August 10th.
Yes, which is 60 days from, yes, yeah. And his commitment was, he had graduation last weekend and now he would be starting the project probably this weekend, next week.
So would our motion be to accept the page 6, the agreement of conditional use
Right, it would be, yep, it would be to approve the permit
permit? and
as
the-
presented with the attached conditions.
Okay.
Yep.
So is there a motion to
Yeah.
approve, the permit as presented with the attached conditions?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
There a second?
I'll second.
right. Okay, thank you.
And I think maybe you mentioned it, but planning commission did recommend it.
Yes, the planning commission did recommend approval of this. Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
What part of the lake is it? Is it across from you or?
It's on Lower Elk Lake.
Oh, it's on lower?
Yeah, I didn't put a map on there, Dwight. I should have. It's on the north side of Lower Elk Lake.
Oh, okay.
It would be about in the middle of that development,
Yeah.
or maybe a little bit to the east.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Okay. So then Ken, I'll have two things for you to sign. It would be the permit application itself. And then the agreement.
got a question, since we talked about the elevation of the water coming up.
Okay,
I've moved my dock 3 times. So
Already?
I went to the other end and looked, that pipe
Okay.
underwater and plugged. completely.
the outlet,
Yes,
okay.
is that like,
I don't even know who's responsible for that outlet.
that was my next
I
question.
know we had this conversation several years ago, but I think what's happened is just the folks on the lake go over there and clean it out.
And I mean, that's okay.
Yes,
So
without a doubt, yeah.
I know it's on
Right,
We gotta
right.
walk through private property to get to it, or I suppose Erickson owns that. property.
Right.
They rented.
right, and if you wanna, I mean, I can try to coordinate something there, Ken, but honestly, I don't know who's in charge of that outlet. I don't.
Where's the outlet, down by the beach somewhere?
It's over, no, actually,
Get
it's,
over-
it'd be at the very northwest corner there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There was because naturally this lake wanted to go to the east into Lower Elk Lake. But I think there was something done in the seventies where that thing was installed. And I think Jenna Swenson was involved in that, if I remember right. Right,
Usually it gets
Yeah.
plugged with sticks and stuff and you
Right.
clean it out. There's
Right.
not a great.
How big a pipe is it?
So say it's
Not that big.
12, 14 inches. Runs into that series of.
Mhm.
and Chad, I guess I gotta have you I gotta have you send this. to us.
What's the jurisdictional ladder on it now? Who's got control of it?
That's the great,
Wow.
that's the clerk.
Bound to be somebody,
I don't know.
DNR?
But I'm, if it
Does-
gets much
does it
more, I'm
im-
gonna be moving my dog before it's done.
Does it impact the ordinary high?
Oh, I'm guessing it's creeping up there now.
I don't know what the ordinary high is, I just know that the pipe is underwater and it's not coming out the other.
Right,
Like,
right.
yeah.
So what's happening, Greg, on this public water inventory that's going clear across?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, I don't know, I think it's kind of back in DNR's hands, but I honestly don't know all the details of that. You're maybe referring to some of that legislation that came through at the last,
40 miles.
Yeah.
Things.
yeah, and I know there's a push now, they're actually, I think, where it's at is there's gonna be an official map. And that's gonna be the map of record, and that's how it's gonna be. So things don't get added or subtracted or, right? And that's my understanding of how that's gonna play out.
This all took place for that deal that happened down in the southwest corner of the state.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And
yeah.
now it kind of, they're seeing inefficiencies with it, so they're
Yeah.
kind of trying to.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's gonna create hornets nests out here because of what they've started and now they're changing and so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know,
yeah.
we'll find out. They
Right.
won't start a revolution there.
Yeah, well, water's for fighting. I mean, there's just,
I mean, it was put in there with, based on some water height, right?
well, yeah, I'd honestly,
No gate on it.
no, there's no gate on it. It just comes out and leaves Erickson's on the other side of that gravel road.
Yeah.
And there might be a file down at the Soil and Water District that have some information, cause I think they were involved with that. But I think what happens is when it's close to shore and then the waves come and then the bull rush and all that just cover that thing up. And it's intended to keep the lake from getting too high, right? And it'll only let it get so low. And I think it is set at the ordinary high. So, yeah. But all this rain is kind of creating a lot of things, right now, in the Pelican Lake area, we had 3 to 4 inches, 2 to 4, 3 at my place, 4 in Evansville, 2+, and Pelican Lake Township had a couple of roads that got damn near washed out on the south side. So just, Dwight, maybe just so you're aware of that Ruben and I met Pelican Lake yesterday, and now I'm going back out there again today. It's that new development on the south end, Myrtle Beach. And there's a watershed coming from the fields up there that's like 70 or 80 acres, and it all came at once. And the culverts couldn't handle it on that new development, so it got up and topped over. So it blew gravel off into the ditch, and it's a pretty big blowout. So-
Boatload of rain, cause we were up to Millerville yesterday
For Little League baseball?
and looked at some of the fields by Jacobson's there.
Yeah,
And just a little way south,
yeah,
there was a line there that.
right.
Huge amount of rain.
Yeah.
Like in Ashby there, the small ballpark, the water, we got catch basins in there to catch it behind.
Right,
It come over the top of that and it couldn't handle it and it went through the third base entrance and washed that out.
Yeah.
So there was a lot, that 80.
yeah, it came hard and fast.
So they got 3-4 inches up there?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, it was a pretty good rain. So, So, yeah.
That ain't a good situation.
No. I know, well, we were at the. Water elevations are always kind of a touchy subject too, but you know, last weekend we met with the Pelican Lake folks. Right, and that was kind of part of the conversation is. Some people like the water high, some people like it low, and some like it dirty and some like it clean and. Right, so.
Most of them don't like corn.
No, yeah, and yeah. That was part of the conversation, I think, yeah. Did it get pretty heated there? I had to leave for that.
Tried to a little bit. you know,
Right.
But like that, is it Alex? Is that his name? No, the DNR guy from Glenwood.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think so.
He's a guy, he said, I'm just in charge of fish. He's going.
Yeah, yeah,
They were gonna call the cormorants.
Right.
They were proposing it, maybe, I don't know, like 1,000 or something. And then, it got shot down at the upper levels of it.
yeah, yeah. So
But boy, they've been going north though.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, they come off the lake in hordes.
Yeah.
Quite a big flock.
So,
Have they started talking about this rough fish in these basins and, the DNR is gonna start to do some type of predation on it?
Well, I don't know. They talk a lot about the suckers or, the rough fish. There's a lot of conversation about whether they mechanically remove them or try to, there's pheromones that they're working on it with research and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know where that's all gonna go, but every lake's gonna have carp and bullheads and, right? But where it leads, I don't know. But I know one of the things they are trying to do is remove dams up and down our river systems. And that'll maybe be one of the conversations this weekend at the Pomme de Terre River Association meeting, or the Pomme de Terre Lake Association meeting, is they're gonna remove the dam on Pomme de Terre. Not make it go lower, but make a ladder system so that the good fish can go upstream.
The south end of the lake you're talking?
Yep,
Really?
yep,
They put that in the 50s. And now they're gonna put a fish ladder in there?
yep.
Okay.
Yep, they're doing it on the whole Pomme de Terre River system. Yep, there's conversation, and the Lake Association has been the one who've been pushing it, because what ends up happening is the walleye and the crappies and everything that are in the river can never get up into the lake.
Yeah. It'll get
Right.
further.
So, yeah, so that'll maybe be one of the conversations this week. I think John Holmes and I are planning on going to that, so we should be able to have a conversation about that, so.
Fish ladder wrecked the best fishing hole I ever knew.
Yeah, and that's the ones that like to fish at the bottom of the dam are disappointed, but
Set up in the Chippewa chain dress.
No, it was between the Barrett Dam and that old bridge, there was a hole or the rock, there was always walleye sitting behind it. Well, they put fish ladder in, then they could get up, so they never sit there.
So is that during the steering season then, or what?
Yeah.
What do you mean during the spearing season closes?
I remember that though.
Netting.
I remember that, Troy, when you guys were young, they'd be down there fishing.
They have on the west end of my
I
lake.
lived in.
okay, did you get it out of there this year then, or?
Your cats are.
Okay.
It was on the east end before, but now they put it
Okay.
in, there's no comment.
Right, where the creek goes by the
Okay.
lagoon,
All right, yep,
They're one of, drop water run out of there all winter.
okay. Yeah, see, didn't you and I go over there on the Gator and look at that thing?
That was a different spot.
Okay. But speaking of that, I have been working with the landowners on 5 Mile Creek. In terms of trying to do some cleanouts. And it's kind of being, I'm having some success, and some landowners are being a little apprehensive about it, and so where that one goes, I don't know, but
But I know it's high,
yeah, it is, yeah,
especially on the east.
yeah,
that
yeah.
He was going.
Yeah. So I've been reaching out to some of the landowners, and there's a DNR permit that has to be acquired. And Bois de Sioux has actually has a policy in place now. I think I've shared this with you already, but as long as we're visiting, they will cost share up to $3,000 to help do some clean out on 5 Mile Creek. So that was part of that meeting we had down in Herman, and so couple of the landowners are willing to cooperate and some of them have said they don't wanna participate and so we'll have to,
When you say the clean out of five, are you talking prior to the? What's classified as 5 Mile Creek or actually in?
5 Mile Creek, the 5 Mile Creek proper, yep.
So the DNR is on board with that.
Yes, I've been working with the DNR on that. Yep, they are on board. Yep. There are some thresholds we cannot cross in terms of length or amounts. But they, yep, I've got pretty good cooperation.
Like length of channel or?
Length of channel, volume, all those kind of things. There are some triggers that if you do too big of a comprehensive project that would require some environmental review.
Length
So-
of channel though, or width?
All of it, length,
Oh.
width, volume,
But it can come back,
sediment.
it can't be at each time, it can be segments.
Right, yeah,
So eventually, it's just gonna take a while.
right.
And so we know what happens if you just do part of it is.
It doesn't work. Yeah.
So, sure.
And I think, you know, when you say that, in the big picture, I believe that, you know, there's an understanding that there probably has to be a more comprehensive approach to these problem areas. And I think, you know, there's maybe in the next 5 and 10-year plan, Bois de Sioux will come back and try to start at the beginning and go to the end. But the thing they're up against is they have the Red Path project going on. They have Doran Creek. You know, they have limited staff. We have limited money. You know, we all know that there are multiple projects that can go on, but we just can't do them all at once.
But there's some towards the bottom that don't wanna clean out, but if you clean.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. if you
yes.
clean the top out, then they don't wanna clean. it.
yeah, yes, yeah. So right? And we've got some pretty good track record of understanding what happens when you start at the top. It doesn't go very well. Cause then you just move the problem and it gets worse and worse and worse. So,
They may wake up.
yeah, but that's been
Well, I
kind
know
of,
That could be different, you wouldn't have a culvert, if it's the one I'm thinking of, we're
Yeah.
talking about, there was a culvert holding it, so those.
yeah, there's,
Downstream never.
right.
Seen the
Yeah. And it's kind of complicated and I've been, you know, both Reed and I have been working with the landowners on this 5 Mile Creek project. So as it moves forward, I'll keep you guys in the loop. So
That guy in the red shirt, he'll help you get it done.
There you
there
go.
you go.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff.
You know, we've got a sludge judge out there to figure out just what kind of dirt that's gotta be moved out of it.
Yeah,
How deep
exactly.
is it?
Yeah, it's,
4 or 5 feet?
well,
What material are you gonna move out of it?
well, when you say that, there is one spot that, through the one watershed, one plan, you know, that's geared toward water quality more. There is one landowner that's on the beach ridge. It has a lot of sand. And there's a lot of watershed that comes through his property. And every time we get a big rain, that part of the farm blows right into the lake. Or into the river, I'm sorry, into the main channel. So, you know, they recognize they have a problem. But there's no reason to go in there and clean out that part of 5 Mile Creek. When if you clean it and we get a 3-inch rain or a 4-inch rain like we did in Ashby, all that soil goes right back in and it. So we are working with the soil and water and it's a pretty big project. And we're gonna correct all that upland stuff before we clean the channel. Cause the potential exists for it to just happen again. So why would you clean that part of 5 Mile Creek if we are just gonna blow out? And everybody, you know, the folks at Bois de Sioux and the folks in the one watershed, one plan, we're all aware of it and it's gonna, the plan is to get that done yet this year. And once we can do that, then that part of the 5 Mile Creek will get cleaned. So it's trying to be comprehensive. Just like the plan says, comprehensive plan. So lots going on, but yeah, we'll get her, hopefully.
Can I ask a question?
For sure.
5 Mile Creek, maybe you said it before I came in, you know, from Herman into it. Has anything ever been done or is planned for that? A couple of years ago, I was out there, you know.
Yep.
And maybe you talked about it.
That's what we're talking about, Jeff.
Okay, okay.
Exactly, yep.
Okay, cool.
As a result of that, that's some of the stuff that's going on.
Okay, good.
Yep, we've got everybody on board and we're trying to get some resolution.
Yes, I get contacted on that.
Yep.
More than once.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yep, yep, you're not alone.
Okay, good.
Yep, yeah,
Thank you.
you bet.
So we got 6 minutes, Reed. You know what that means? You wanna give us your 6-minute update on solid waste and recycling?
Sure, by Wednesday, the solid waste store report will be completed and turned in. Then in a couple weeks, we meet with a couple different people from the state and Inga Brexton's and a couple others to do some kickoff meeting for our 10-year plan stuff. And that's coming 26 or 20.
Late 25, I think.
All the cities got updated, all the billing and all that got figured out, so they got their bills now, so they've all seemed like they've been pretty happy that they got them now. Other than that, we haven't had anything crazy, so it's been good. The solid waste is kind of well-oiled machine and it goes how it goes and works pretty good.
Is there anything that you need from us or you're doing okay?
I think we're doing pretty good, yeah. We've been assisting some of the cities with some of their cleanup stuff, so that's been kind of a good neighborly thing to do and worked out well.
Greg, you have anything?
Other than Jim left us in pretty good hands, right? I mean, it was pretty well oiled and
Yeah.
there weren't, I mean, we were fortunate to take over when we did because, you know, there have been hiccups in the past, but you know, with having a good solid contract and the haulers and everything's been, it's been a good, it's been going good. It's been a good learning curve for us, but you know, we've had a few hiccups, but nothing, like Reed said, it's been, we've got her pretty well dialed in.
So Greg, do you guys get this environmental review for wastewater collection systems, like when pollution control operates, you know, with a city? And they're gonna do some type of an update or a project or something like that, do they touch base with you guys?
Sometimes we do, Bill, but not always.
Okay,
It just depends on the particular project. Occasionally I'll get those notices. You know, another example is I just got a notice from the state regarding the transmission line, which it isn't in Grant County, but, right, so,
it'll serve Grant County.
Yeah,
so That's why.
right. But just as an example, but that, well, are you referring to one in particular there? Or?
Yeah, City of Lake Sewer Pond, an
Haven't,
update in our county right away or right off the right away or?
I haven't gotten anything on that.
Like it's the force main?
I haven't, nope, haven't received anything on that one in particular.
Okay.
No,
Well,
is that something I should get?
I would have to believe that, you know, something, if there's a wetland, they gotta.
Okay, yeah, if they're doing any digging or any, yeah.
What I'll do is I just got this today, so I'll go.
Okay.
To the city and if it's something that you have to be involved with, I'll make sure you get a copy of it.
Okay, perfect. All right,
Thank
thanks.
you, Greg.
All right, thanks.
We have a few minutes. Would someone like to make a motion to approve Sanford Township's request for their $2,000?
So, second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, carried.
I have one quick thing.
Yes.
Sure. I'm gonna be in Canada. I think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But I was just wondering, like the county board of appeal or is that a Zoom meeting where I can get on Zoom? Can I do that on Zoom?
I don't know.
So our expert's back there in the corner, but I think you can, if we have it on Zoom, you can attend. But in order to vote, where you are at would have to be listed in the meeting notice it'd have to be a public space.
Right, yeah. I won't be at a public space, that's for sure.
The only thing I would be, I mean, you can attend, you just wouldn't be
Right.
able to vote.
But it's yeah, it's not a overly serious deal that I can't vote, I don't think. Could it be?
My big question, and we never did that with Carl, is I'm assuming we have somebody that's trained.
Yeah,
We gotta make sure we have the trained person here.
I did that also. So we had two before, now we have three.
Well, I know they expire, just so we have, and he never said anything, so I'm assuming we're fine.
right. And then the same with the board meeting on the 18th, you know. If, I don't even know if I got internet there, so I did. A couple of years ago, I had a little trouble with it, but
The training, you know, you and I are the trained personnel, we will be here. So
I don't know.
I'm gonna be here.
I mean, I was, I don't know if I still am or not.
I think I am. That's just about positive.
Anything else? Otherwise, we're gonna give Representative Jeff Backer one extra minute. Whoa.
Is that good, bad, or ugly?
No, that's good.
I don't want LaValley to say anything, okay? E.F. Hutton, when he talks, well, no, nobody listens when you talk. Huh?
Right.
There you go. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. First of all, I had one document that I had, but I misplaced it, so I'm going to work off my phone on that document. The two things I wanted to just touch base, there's a lot of things that happen. Unfortunately, the challenge that we face is we have a one-party control, and that party is extremely heavily influenced by the Metro folks, okay? That makes them extremely liberal, even though some of the rural Democrats, greater Minnesota Democrats, don't care for their policies, they still walk the plank for the Metro crowd, and so forth, extremely hard. So what I want to start first of all is HHS, just a couple of the changes. HHS was part of what we call the megabus bill, the last bill that was passed within 3 minutes. It was 1,400 pages, front to back, 2,800 pages, roughly a policy. We did get some good wins this year. I know this isn't with the county, I know at the school, West Central doesn't use it, but student resource officers were passed. We were able to stop some of the Second Amendment provisions. There was some in the megabus bill. But the one that we were able to would be, we'll use Dwight. If you have a carry-on, one of the provision is if it's in your home, you would have to have it under a lock and safe, okay? So if you have a person that decides to come door knocking at 4 o'clock from Woodbury in your area, like in Detroit Lakes, now I'm being kind of funny, at least I'm trying to be, you would have to say, stop, I gotta go get my gun. This is how stupid that was. The good news is we were able to stop that and so forth, which was a big win. And that was stopped because of a greater Minnesota Democrat, the constituents called. Another big win that we had this year, which doesn't solve all the problems, it starts to address the issue, and that's greater Minnesota EMS funding. Not just funding, but policy. One of the provisions I've been working on since 2015 is that nurses can ride in the back of the ambulance. And that got passed this year. Because as we are well aware of, with your Ashby's, with your Hennings, with your Wheaton, Browns Valley, Hoffman's, even into Breckenridge, the back up to, and this will probably come into law on August 1st this year. It will be most likely August 1st, is it would have to be an EMT, myself, or one of my peers or paramedic. Now, through a variance under the direction of your medical director for the service, they can nurse practitioner and a nurse could take the place of a EMT in the back. From a driver perspective, we were able to put a provision in there so that a person with a CPR card and just driving first, well, they don't even have to be a first responder anymore. They just have to have a CPR card and then take the driving, emergency driving that all your all your fire and ambulance takes, okay? So that was significant. We got $24 million into greater Minnesota. I don't have the runs in front of me because they've been changing, but most services getting anywhere from 51,000 to 313,000, okay? And quite ironic, Browns Valley is one of the least ones, so just how the formula works. We got about 51,000.
How do they determine that?
What we did was we put together a formula based on the number of runs, based, and it's right in the bill, based on the number of runs, based on the runs per square mile. Also, those were the two key things. Everybody got a certain set amount. I think it was $24,000. Don't quote me on that. A base. Everybody had a certain base. If it was the $120 million amount that we were asking for, everybody would have got 15,000 base. So it's around 24, 25. So based on the amount of runs, because we really wanted it to go, and then, not in a specific square mile, but also, we also had a feeling in a particular time. So if our service is getting 2,000 runs in a year, they didn't qualify because they can spread the costs out. Or a Henning, a Ashby, a Browns Valley, a Wheaton, Breckenridge, Hoffman, and so forth. So it was that formula there, okay? And it's right in the bill there, Dwight, good question. So that was a win. It was a hard fought win. Myself and Senator Rassman on the Senate side, Senator Lang, myself on the House side, Representative Zalistakart on the Iron Range. It was quite driven by the minority party. Because the majority, quite frankly, had no concern for it. We did tell them, if you ever you all like to come out to our area, if you want dial 911, you may not want to see me, but you want to see somebody, okay? County, CARMA, which is County Administered Rural Medical Assistant Model, which you guys are already in Prime West. That just makes it easier for other counties to get into it, which at the end of the day, if you have more folks into it, I just came from Wilkin County, they're not involved with it. I am a big believer of the county purchase program. It gives you guys flexibility. It brings it down locally. Who here serves on the board for Prime West? You do, Ken. You know everything that Prime West does. They even invest into our communities where HMO doesn't do that, although in the metro area. It is a fight. The metro folks really wanted to change it. I got his face in my head, but his name's escaping me. He's from St. Cloud, used to be the rep. He's your lobbyist, does a great job.
Yeah.
He used to be the chair of HHS during Plenty. He'll come to me. I could see his face, but anyways, I work with him very closely. It's something that I'm very passionate about. He will share with you in 2016 or 2015. My party, when we were in the majority, wanted to take that away, and us Greater Minnesota reps got together and stopped it by 1 vote. So I have fought my party, the suburban folks, against it. And now with this here, it gives them that flexibility to look into it. Some of your, out of Hand Lake, that northern, actually like, Isanti County would be very good. Your Brian Johnson, your Ann New areas, so we can broaden that. So that was good. And you guys belong to that, so I don't have to share with you all the benefits there. We did get changes to the changes to the priority administration system. That's placing people into DHS direct care and treatment has been a point of contention between the counties. We were able to keep the 48-hour rule, even though the metro folks did not want that. We were able to keep some flexibility. But as you all are aware of, you have had people in the Anoka, I would assume you've had people in the Anoka Regional Treatment Center and how expensive that is to your constituents. It's just crazy. We did not get everything, far from it, what we wanted in us Greater Minnesota reps, so there's a lot of work for it. That did tilt to your 7-county metro area stuff this year. But we were able to still keep the 48-hour hold and so forth. We did increase capacity to direct care and treatment. That was $15.7 million in fiscal year 24-25. We also gave flexibility to re-entry programs for prisoners, up to 90 days. It gives flexibility, as Dwight would know, that a lot of your frequent customers to a jail are people who have treatment issues and they go back and develop those negative habits and so forth. So it gave additional flexibilities for the case management and SUD assessments and so forth. Mental health, we were able to put a little bit more money in fiscal year. This year, we were able to, right now, appropriate $1.6 million, 8.4 million in 24 and 20. The 1.6 million in 24 and 25 and 8.4 million, 26 and 27. We still have, there is quite a few of us greater Minnesota reps, myself included, we're looking for ways to increase the bids. I'm still be a big believer, instead of building new facilities and bond for new facilities that, you know, don't always get a bonding bill. We should be working with our critical care access hospitals, because there are quite a few, rooms open there. I still have a ways to sell that. So that's some of the summary of HHS, transportation. The big win,
Before we get off of HHS.
Okay, cool.
I would ask you a
I'm
question.
sorry, go ahead, yes.
So, and I'm not asking you to weigh in on the African American Family Preservation Act. I know that is they're doing a study on the cost.
Mhm.
They're not gonna run this study through completely before they've defined the issues in that act, are they? So they haven't set what, you know, poverty is a minority issue, okay? They haven't set what that level of poverty is. So that could change for rural counties, that could change drastically the financial impact to the county, depending on where they set it. So if they do this fiscal calculation prior to defining the terms in there, they're setting us up to fail.
Mhm.
And I'm not exactly sure who it was that had requested that, but if we could make sure we're not doing that financial analysis before we have everything defined.
Won't she bounce that information off of the census, 2020 census?
Yes, I would assume so. That was Metro, that was all Metro led.
Right, and like I said, I'm
Mostly
not
St.
asking
Paul.
any input on the bill, that's passed, that's done. They're doing a cost study, and I just am concerned about defining or doing the analysis prior to the definition.
And we brought that up on the House floor, Troy, during our last 2 weeks, and it was not me, it was another of my members who brought that up and saying, you know, why are we in essence getting the horse in front of the cart? I mean, the cart in front of the horse, excuse me.
The state does not have the proper IT to do the reporting. We're not staffed to do the reporting. We don't have a place to put the people to do the reporting. And we don't,
Good point, yes, very
I
good
mean,
point.
all of that is,
And if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure for those reasons, I think that came as an individual bill. If I remember correctly, the last 3 weeks, unfortunately, is a blur. It's kind of like Groundhog Day every single day. You just have different bills, and so forth. I believe I did vote against that for those reasons, because it's not defined yet. And I do not like, we in the minority do not like when the agencies have so much rule-making authority, because they tend not to listen to the smaller counties. Good point, thank you, Troy. Other things on HHS? Okay, let's just briefly talk about transportation. Some of the good stuff in there's bad and good. There are high priority bridges. There was $8.9 million invested in 25 for that. The big win for our area was small city transportation funding, $11 million. So that means everybody in 9A, except for Fergus Falls, would be getting some funding there. Corridors of Conference received $15 million, trunk highway. Safety road construction, $15 million this year. A bad program, in our opinion, is the traffic safety camera pilot program, which is very similar to what you talked about. They're spending $1 million on a 4-year project, but we go, what's your goal with it? Just to see how many people goes through the red light, or do you really have a goal? Minnesota Department of Transportation did not. They're putting out 42 cameras, so a camera per every 10,000. So the drivers will not be filmed. Owners of vehicles will get sent tickets of $40 for 10 miles per hour and over $80 for 20 miles per hour. So if a car is driven by someone else, it's the owner who gets fined. You know, it really needs to be the driver, not the owner. We do have a provision of greenhouse gas emission analysis and so forth. We do have that, which is not a good program. The main problem with that is they're taking money from the trunk highway fund. That trunk highway fund is designed for cement and asphalt, okay? So we saw that. They also took money from $1 million to plant trees along highways. Again, we're not against trees, but $1 million from trunk highways, we all know that we need to invest more money into roads and bridges. And then they put $1 million in the general fund to Ramsey County to purchase liability insurance for Union Depot in St. Paul. What people don't know is that's probably one of the greatest place where you have homeless is at the Union Depot in St. Paul. Now, St. Paul has done great things to lower their homelessness, but it just makes me wonder if that's tied into that. We also saw $20 million put into various facilities for Minnesota DOT buildings. There was some money put in choo-choo trains again. They started fund $22.5 million for state patrol headquarters. That's $120 million. They did fund $22.5 million of that. Also, they put a grant, $1.2 million one-time special revenue fund to fund repairs for headlight and lights violations. Funds grants for law enforcement agencies to pass out as vouchers. So if you pull over your vehicle, your headlight don't work, you can get a voucher to fix your headlights. And then there was supposedly a $2 million environmental analysis for Highway 55 corner. So those are some of the highlights. As you go through the bills, you can see that they're very metrocentric. We are even seeing people on the other side of the aisle in 9A are saying, you know what, we need balance in government. We need a stronger greater Minnesota. That's why this election is so important. We do need the House. You're starting to see your soft Democrats even saying, hey, it cannot all be metro focus. And we just look at these bills here. It's very metro, just like you pointed out, Troy. So questions? Important stuff, but not always the most exciting things. You'll definitely not hear it on the Tonight Show.
Questions for Representative Backer?
I'm good. We covered a lot of stuff. I kind of followed through with what AMC's kind of spit out at us as far as where things are at.
Yeah.
No cash bill, no bonding, no nothing. Can you imagine all this engineering that's been plugged into, sitting in anticipation, ready to be able to deliver these projects? I mean, what the heck? We just can't sit and just tread water on this.
I know.
So I talked a little bit with you, Bill, this pilot, this $4 million, it's $4 million.
6 million, are you talking about the EMS?
Three totals for us.
Well, yeah, there's
There's
6.
an article in the paper about that pilot program.
It's a Sprint Medic program, yep.
So bring that to Grand County. What's your?
Well, I already, Grant County, it's Grant County and Perm, so it's Grant County and Perm, okay?
And Ringgold.
Well,
Okay.
it's mostly Perm. I'm not,
Yeah.
Dwight, I'm not aware that it's with Ringgold. It's just, that's what,
I'm on that, they put my name on there, I'm on that EMS, pilot paramedic committee. And, so we, just last, Thursday was our first meeting, and it's kind of a hurry up deal.
Mhm.
Get everything organized, cause, and so they're meeting once a week, and then the committees are meeting once a week, so more to come on that.
Yeah. Grant County's gonna get piece of the $3 million.
So, but right now, I mean, Elder Lake, they have the
Mhm.
pilot car concept.
Yes, they do.
Lake Region. Lake
Yeah,
Region,
yeah,
yeah,
so-
so where's part of that, where do we anticipate that being impactful to us?
Well, what I would assume that it was going to be the money that you use for that program already you'll take part of that $3 million to pay for that Sprint Medic program you have already. I wanted what I negotiated to the end, which did not get into it, is taking that money and use it as for non-transport runs, because approximately 20% of all runs is a no load. If it's Medicaid or Medicare, you don't get paid if the wheels don't turn. But that didn't get into the final bill, but the Sprint Medic did get into the final bill. So if your Lake Region is, because that runs through the whole county, and if that program right now is costing through $200,000 a year, then you're going to take $200,000 from that 3 million, backfill that, and then you use that money for something else. That's what I see. Cause you already have a program. You may decide to add one more car. You may decide, again, there is virtually no strings attached to that outside of being responsible for the use of the funds for a Sprint Medic. PERM doesn't have one, so they'll use that to purchase a vehicle, I would assume, put a staff person on there. I would assume in Otter Tail County, up in PERM, they'll have two of them, one near Park Rapids, one south near Underwood or something, because I think PERM gets that far over to the west part of the county there, Ken.
So maybe I gotta refer to Bill, because you've been on this. How does this impact Hoffman then? We got stuff happening. And we appropriated money to buy this ambulance for the Lake Region group, but we got Hoffman over here with short of volunteers and,
That will all be laid out on June 10th.
well, how's this gonna work?
Well, I don't know what's all set in stone yet there, but my understanding was they were gonna, I think they're looking at getting another pilot car in Grant County. And, another paramedic, and that would benefit Hoffman, these cars are gonna be responding into those areas where these calls are going. It's all.
Well, here's what I would recommend. This is me wearing my EMS hat, not my legislative hat. Okay, if I was in Traverse County and they did it for Traverse County, what I would do is obviously whatever that program is costing right now, let's say it's $200,000. Okay. My recommendation then to Grant County, who oversees it, is to take that $200,000 and hire a full-time EMT for Hoffman. That's what I wanted to do. $51,000 doesn't do it for Browns Valley. So I'm gonna try to figure out something else, okay? Because many times, we don't have an EMT in Browns Valley. So if I were in Hoffman's shoes, that's what I would do. Because now you've got money to feed into your Sprint model program, because that costs us, let's say, $200,000. Correct, Dwight may put another Sprint Medic program into Grant County. The challenge that you still have is a Sprint Medic is only there to show up on the scene, look at the scene, make sure we don't need an ambulance. If they show up on the scene, then they'll need the ambulance. But there are times, for example, because I'm assuming does Hoffman, no, Wheaton does Herman, okay? That's 17 miles away. So in Herman, in my opinion, wearing the EMS hat right now, just my years of it, you would not send a Sprint Medic into Herman, let that Sprint Medic say, hey, we need to call an ambulance, where your ambulance is 17 miles away in Wheaton, okay? Now, I did some ride-alongs in North Metro area, and what they actually do is dispatch, is they send out the Sprint Medic, and then they have a series of questions to evaluate. So they don't wait for the Sprint Medic to get there to evaluate the patient. They literally do it over the phone with great accuracy Then they decide, cause when the Sprint medic gets out, they actually activate the ambulance at the same time. That's what they do in North Metro area. Now, they have different resources. I'm not saying you guys are gonna do it this way for Hoffman. Cause Ken, you have the same concern in Hoffman that I have in Browns Valley. I just don't have as much resources right now. But what I would do is, what I'm recommending in the test program, it's only a recommendation, that maybe you follow that type of protocol that the dispatch asks, and maybe they can say, hey, we don't need an ambulance. If the Sprint medic gets there, boom. That will be decided all by the committee. But to get back to your question, I take that $200,000. If it's $200,000, my recommendation, do like what Southeast, because when I toured the city, Southeast Minnesota does this really well. They have what they call a, it's a quasi, they have a full-time EMT or full-time medic. And then it's backed by your volunteers. So, you would have your EMT during your greatest, maybe you have hire two full EMTs. That EMT is on call from 6 to 6. One is from 6 to 6 during weekdays. One is on 6 to 6 weekends, whatever. But you need a hybrid program. That's what I was trying to focus on in Browns Valley, is to get enough money so we have a EMT, and I don't know, 51,000 would do it.
Is it gonna come into the county?
No.
Where's the money?
Otter Tail's the fiscal on it.
Yeah, but you will also get some money through that $24 million.
Right.
But
So-
so it's gonna go to Otter Tail County.
The pilot program is Otter Tail's a fiscal agent.
And then how much of that 6 million do we know?
No, you get 3 million goes to St. Louis County, 3 million to Otter Tail and Grant County.
Correct.
Okay, of the 3 million, then how much should we get?
And I'm hearing the run that you guys are gonna get out of Hoffman is 50,000.
That's out of that $24 million, yes, right around there. But again, what I would recommend, we don't know, there in the law that was passed, it didn't say Grant will get that much,
No.
okay? But you need someone who's willing to wag their tongue and say, hey, we need to do that. I would take that money, backfill your existing program, and then take that money and help to maybe through the Sprint, maybe you tie it through the Sprint Medic program, folks. Because we're going to station an EMT in Hoffman, to help out the Sprint Medic. You can be creative with this. I've been thinking how you guys,
That's what they're looking for. And this June 10th meeting at 10 o'clock, a lot of that'll come out of it.
we will have some of that come up.
Yes.
You guys have a lot of flexibility.
We do.
If,
That's what
you-
it's about.
My concern is, and that's why I'm gonna tee it up, because you two are on this, the grant, the ENS committee. And we got the Ashby and the Hoffman and the Lake Region program. And now we got an influx of money coming. And that committee needs to be up and running and really
Yeah, they,
ready to accept and react and move on this.
Going in.
So has that, I know it's too new.
Well, it's just come off the press.
you see,
We haven't met yet.
they're in the process of, the committee in Otter Tail, and I'm on it, thank God they put my name on it. But they're meeting every Thursday at 2 o'clock on Zoom this month, and then the meeting we were at last Thursday in May, they formed these subcommittees. And they put me on a purchasing committee kind of for looking into vehicles and things like that. And so it's all so new, I can't answer really any of those questions until the meetings start. On Thursday, now we've got another meeting coming. And so all of this will be talked about, But yeah.
And there should be a room full here on the. 10th.
there would be,
10
there
o'clock.
would be, there should be.
Well,
At the same time, my strong recommendation is that in Grant County, because in essence, what you guys are forming is the rules to how to allocate $3 million. I'd be, very vocal, for Grant County, and I would somehow tie the Sprint Medic program so you can get some funds to do those hybrid programs like Southeast Minnesota does, where they have They pay for full-time EMT, full-time paramedic, because you cannot continue to run this program on the back of the volunteers. No, you got folks like me who's been doing it for 29 years. So that's my 2 cents. And I'm extremely opinionated on it because I've been fighting this for 15 years. And what I don't want to see done is what happened with some of the public safety dollars last year. There's a committee, a community up in northern Minnesota that went to buy some canoes with it.
So you got 1 more minute to express your opinion.
I'm here. I just, you know, if, I would not express opinion. If you guys need anything, I think you know that I have enjoyed serving Grant County for how many years. I really enjoy working with the bureaucracy, busting their chops. So, got a good track record with that. So continue to let me know what I could do for you. Sometimes it takes a lot longer than what we know that we want. But at the end of the day, I think I have about an 80% track record myself and the staff and the house to stick up for the small communities. Yesterday, for a good example, the auditor of Traverse County had a hiccup and with the Department of Transportation, so contacted Commissioner Marcourt and reminded him, because the auditor is getting no place with the Department of Revenue. And I reminded the commissioner that he was a rep in Traverse County when the auditor Kit Johnson became in 2006. And Kit Johnson extremely frustrated that your staff is not responding back to him. So, and that's just fun. And I had an email back and Kit had an email back in 30 minutes.
Okay, with that,
We're done.
we're 1 minute past your allotted time, and I appreciate you coming out and I appreciate the input and do we have any more committee reports? Otherwise, I'll adjourn the meeting at 11:01. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you for the flexibility to allow me to do 2 counties today.
And if you're bored on Saturday,